When it comes to financial crime, obviously it's a very uncertain environment at the moment with all the additional challenges that the Russia-Ukraine conflict has brought about in the area of sanctions. So I think that's really dominating what people are thinking about at the moment. But at the same time, the usual risk assessments, the usual due diligence, issues like KYC continue to be a challenge that banks also have to address as part of their normal program. And in that context, I think we see a lot of focus around data, a lot of focus around tech infrastructure, and kind of looking at the next 3-5 years, what the strategy for financial institutions is going to be and how they make that approach sustainable.
Okay.
Yeah, Encompass has a really specific role that we play because we're focused on know your customer, client due diligence, and particularly when it comes to corporate and institutional clients that are being onboarded. So what we typically see is that the financial crime compliance landscape is really big, and within that KYC is one part, and the overall operating model of the bank has to involve multiple constituent parts that really are integrated, interoperable, and allow data to move through that system and be utilised appropriately. So Encompass's role is retrieving the data and documents that become part of that ecosystem overall and making sure it's done in a way that's scalable and compliant and can be evidenced. So that's where we help clients. I think within that broader context we've been talking about of all the change, monitoring sanctions, looking at your tech and data stack and the increasing pressures that continue to build in the regulatory environment, having a perpetual or continuous kind of lens on what's happening with your client base is important. But it's not something that's going to happen overnight either. And what the institutions that we talk to are being really mindful and sensible in terms of seeing it as a journey and understanding that it isn't a one-stop shop or there isn't one solution when it comes to perpetual, that you're going to have to need data, you're going to need alerts, you're going to need monitoring, and so there's going to be a lot of different elements that come to have a perpetual operating model as opposed to having a single solution. So in that context, the rate of change, the need to keep monitoring is going to be ever present, and banks need to build the tech stack and operating models that help them address that. I think, customer expectations have shifted from the consumer arena into B2B and now into corporate institutional, where people really expect less friction in client onboarding and even more so in the refresh process where they're existing customer of the bank and they're being asked to provide documents or data that the bank should already know about them or is in the public domain. And so I think that we'll see technologies like automation, better use of data, and having API-led or really heavily integrated solutions throughout the customer life cycle is going to be really important. So there's some of the technologies that I think banks will be implementing. The Global RegTech Summit has been a fantastic opportunity and forum to bring together the RegTech community, and I think we've seen across the world, in the UK, in APAC, and now in North America, the conversation about RegTech really picking up in its own right, distinct or adjacent to FinTech, not just within it. And I think that's a really important conversation to have because RegTech's really enabling, and RegTechs work with banks and partner with them. They don't challenge them or compete for business. So there's an opportunity to have a really collaborative conversation and to also have regulators in the room at the same time and kind of have a safe space to discuss that. So I've been part of the RegTech Association in APAC, and we've seen those sorts of conversations bring so much value, and it's a kind of rising tide raises all boats situation. And so that's what the vibe has been here in the room today. It's kind of raising the banner about RegTech, and I think that's really exciting in North America to see that conversation really picking up pace.